Gaza is experiencing a dire humanitarian crisis with clean water, food, and fuel running out. Hospitals are being pushed to the breaking point. Hundreds of thousands are hoping to flee to Egypt, but only those with a foreign passport will be able to leave if the border crossing opens.
The crisis in Gaza has worsened to dangerous and deadly levels as Israel has ordered the evacuation of more than 1 million Palestinian civilians from the south before they begin their ground invasion, which is expected to be brutal to say the least. Now, Israel has cut off the Gaza population's access to electricity, to food, to water, prompting warnings of a dire humanitarian crisis. In over a week of bombardment, Israeli airstrikes have killed at least 2,670 people in Gaza, including hundreds of children, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. Casualties in the besieged strip over the past 8 days have now surpassed the number of those killed during the 51-day Gaza-Israel conflict in 2014. In fact, here's more on that evacuation order and how those following it are often attacked by airstrikes.
Thousands of flyers raining down from the sky, urging the people of Gaza City to evacuate within 24 hours, a deadline that has come and gone. This is a very densely populated area we're talking about here. This entire area, shaded in red, you see in front of your screen there, home to more than 1 million people, all of them told to make their way south. A mass migration the UN has called impossible to achieve because the residents of Gaza have nowhere to go and are getting no assistance. We have seen Palestinian men, women, and children urgently trying to make their way out. Families packed onto that flatbed truck, others fleeing on foot or on carts pulled by horses. Tonight, the Palestinian Health Authority says at least 70 people, most of them women and children who were obeying those orders to get out, have been killed. 3 caravans hit by Israeli missiles as they fled south.
Everybody from Gaza is moving towards where we are. 1 million people, no food, no water. Where are we going to put them? But my thought is, all these people in the hospital cannot be evacuated. Where's humanity? Where's people's hearts in the world?
In addition to that, Amnesty International has put out its own information about what they're seeing in Palestine, in Gaza specifically in regard to Palestinian civilians and the brutality they are suffering. Our research team found that a convoy, including a truck carrying around 30 people, 8 cars, and other nearby people, including women, children, and people with disabilities, was attacked. Ambulances that arrived at the scene were hit in a second attack and rescuers injured. At least 70 died, and that's just one example. So they're being told to evacuate, and in the process of evacuating, which is an impossible task to say the least, we're talking about more than 1 million Palestinians who do not even have the infrastructure or the ability to evacuate half of Gaza within 24 hours. But even those who follow the order are being hit with airstrikes, which really leads me to question what the real goal here is. Because if there is a consensus, an agreement that Hamas, which is the main target, has gone underground in their extensive tunnels, who are the airstrikes really harming here? It's the Palestinian civilians who are trying to flee to safety. So I have a lot more detail to get into, Cenk, but I'm curious what your thoughts are.
Yeah, along those lines, Anna, why would Hamas keep the hostages in the non-populated area that Israel says they're going into? Why wouldn't they move them into a different area? Whether, by the way, it's outside the country, somehow they sneak them out, I have no idea. Move them to the south, etc. Why would they just say, oh, you guys are invading to the northern section. We will keep all the hostages there for you just in case. So what's the point here? So look, I've always been in favor of ground forces instead of random bombings, let alone the non-random bombings. And so what do I mean by the non-random bombings? Don't tell me you're not doing war crimes if you hit an ambulance with your second strike. The ambulance is not unclear. We know what an ambulance is. Everybody knows what an ambulance is. Okay, so you hit the people that you told to flee while they're fleeing. Maybe that's an accident. And I know a lot of people would immediately say, well, since one side is angels and the other side is all devils, and that's probably likely, even though we're all humans. So the angels would never, ever hit a civilian convoy on purpose. Okay, how about the ambulance? No, that's a war crime, and that seems pretty on purpose. And so, okay, I mean, what Hamas did is brutal. Watch what we do. That where you kill more civilians, which has already happened, more children, which has already happened. So where's the moral high ground?
There is no moral high ground. There is no moral high ground. You targeting civilians, there's no moral high ground. There was no moral high ground for Hamas when it targeted Israeli civilians. There is no moral high ground for the IDF as it bombs the hell out of entire neighborhoods in Gaza, leveling them and absolutely destroying and murdering innocent civilians who have done nothing wrong. And then you hear this argument by some Israeli officials that, well, I mean, look, back in 2006, the Palestinians voted in Hamas. Well, more than half of the population, that was 18 years ago, more than half of the population is under the age of 18. Collective punishment is a war crime, and that is currently what is happening. That is currently what is taking place right now. I have no issue with the Israeli government and the IDF going after Hamas, especially after what they did to innocent Israeli civilians. But brutalizing and killing innocent Palestinian civilians is not okay, and that is currently what is happening right now. Yeah. You can't argue that, we're warning the civilians. We're telling them to evacuate. We're giving them 24 hours to evacuate. And then in the process of doing so, you do the airstrikes that kill these innocent Palestinian civilians who are fleeing for safety.
So look, we try to be as productive as humanly possible on the show. When we do critique, we try to give you what they should do instead. And so for my purposes, that's why I keep saying ground troops. If I was them, I would have gone after the hostages right away. And you say, well, that endangers the ground troops. I know, that's kind of the point of troops, right? So I wouldn't have dropped bombs on civilian buildings. For what reason? Now, if you go in with your ground troops and it turns out that that Hamas does this thing that Israeli propaganda always says and never actually proves, just hiding behind the children, right? And as you're trying to kill Hamas, the children are being used as human shields or other human civilians, etc. Okay, and they happen to die in that context. I understand, right? I hate it, but I understand. But one, they've never proven that. I have seen IDF soldiers using Palestinian children as guides. I saw a video of it, clear as day. I've never seen it in regards. If you're saying, well, they're hiding among the civilians of all of the 2.2 million Palestinians, so we're just gonna kill indiscriminately. That's not really Hamas hiding behind the civilians. That's you saying, I don't give a damn about the civilians. When you cut off water for everyone, I don't know if you know this, human beings need water to survive. And it doesn't take long for people to start getting desperate without water, especially for their kids.
Aren't they concerned about the hostages?
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you cut off water, fuel, supplies, humanitarian aid in Gaza, and you do so with the idea that you're trying to apply pressure to Hamas to release the hostages. The hostages are in Gaza, in the very area that is being bombed and brutalized as we speak right now.
Yeah, and listen, guys, I know emotions are raw, and what happened to Israel was terrible, and our hearts go out to them. But if you are in the camp of saying, I don't care if they cut off the water and electricity, you're saying all those babies that are on incubators, they're all gonna die. Everybody who's on life support in Gaza, in hospitals, they're all gonna die. And you're okay with that. Look, I have to be honest with you. Even if you're an ally, a friend, a supporter of the show, that's barbaric. If Hamas said, I don't care if grandmothers on life support die in Israel. I don't care if Israeli babies in incubators die. Like, I would love to cut off their electricity. I would call them barbaric and disgusting. Do not do likewise. It's not, you say, oh, it's too much to ask. No, it's not too much to ask. To not do likewise is Hamas. That's the bare minimum to ask. And Hamas cannot control all of Israel, but Israel controls all of the Gaza territories. And guys, look, these words get super emotional and touchy. I know I lived it more than anybody. I believed in Turkish propaganda. And so for a long time when I was growing up, I refused to call it the Armenian genocide. You know why I call it the Armenian genocide now? Because genocide has certain definitions and it has certain pillars. One is killing innocent civilians, targeting them based on who they are, not based on what they did. So a group attacks you, that's what they did. Collective punishment is who they are, right? Another pillar of genocide is mass relocation.
That's exactly right, and that's what's happening right now as we speak. So
that's what happened to the Armenians.
That's exactly
right. And that's
right.
why it's a genocide.
That's why as I watch the footage of what's happening, as I watch the absolute merciless nature of the attacks towards civilians in the Gaza Strip, how could you not call it ethnic cleansing or a genocide, honestly? So I wanna give you more details because the situation, the lack of resources has gotten so bad that they have run out of body bags in Gaza in order to basically deal with all the dead bodies. The lack of fuel has all sorts of disastrous consequences, not only for the hospitals, but also for, the bulldozers that they need in order to get through the rubble and get to, the bodies underneath the rubble. Bodies are piling up in literal ice cream trucks as a result of what's going on. They have run out of medicine, painkillers. Obviously, the hospitals that are located in the part of the Gaza Strip that the Israeli government is demanding be evacuated, they can't do that. You're talking about people who have, severe illnesses, disabilities. They can't just get up and leave and evacuate to the other half of the Gaza Strip. Dr. Mohammed Abu Magesheb, who's with Doctors Without Borders, said the following: 2 hours we searched for drinkable water. Even drinkable water is not available anymore. There is food, no electricity, no pumping of normal water as well. The hospitals are barely working. They are bombing all day. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow and where we are going. And Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday that Israel has restored water to southern Gaza, where many Gazans have been told to flee. However, the director of the water authority there has said that they did not know if water was available because guess what? You need, electricity in order to pump water for use, and that had not been restored yet. Aid has been piling up on the Egyptian side of the Rafah crossing, the only entry point into Gaza that Israel does not control. But so far, the crossing appears non-functional. Egypt says that airstrikes on the Gaza side have made roads inoperable, and Jordan has said it is seeking assurance that aid convoys will not be targeted by Israeli warplanes. Now, Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived in Tel Aviv this morning, and there are some conflicting reports because he argues that he is working with the Israeli government along with some of the neighboring countries in order to create corridors to get humanitarian aid to Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. He said Rafah will be open, Blinken told reporters during a stop in Egypt on Sunday. We're putting in place with the United Nations, with Egypt, with Israel, with others, the mechanism by which to get the assistance in and to get it to the people who need it. However, this is really important. There are conflicting reports coming from Egypt. Egypt had been allowing some aid to pass into Gaza through the Rafah crossing, but stopped those shipments since Tuesday following Israeli airstrikes on the Gaza side of the junction. Of course, there is no one in the Israeli government entertaining the idea of Palestinian refugees coming into Israel. Of course not, that could never happen. But keep in mind, Israel is a relatively wealthy country, especially compared to Egypt, which is expected to take on the burden of Palestinian refugees, even as the entry point into Egypt continues to get airstriked. It's just incredibly frustrating to see the lack of humanity. Now I want to go to one more video because this war has the possibility of spreading to neighboring countries as well. In fact, journalists have already died as a result of this war. I want to give you the details after we take a look at this video.
The US is working to contain this war, but it's already spreading to the West Bank, where more than 40 Palestinians have been killed in violent clashes. And in Lebanon, where the deputy chief of Hezbollah, a militant group that supports Hamas, said it would act when the time is right. An Israeli strike in Lebanon near the border with Israel today hit a group of foreign journalists, killing a Reuters videographer and injuring 6 others. As the situation in Gaza deteriorates, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appeared before cameras today to say this is only the beginning. That Israel is striking at its enemies with unprecedented might and will eradicate Hamas.
And the Pentagon is concerned that this is going to spread to countries like Iran and Lebanon. That's part of the reason why the Biden administration has sent some carriers, 2 different carriers, to the region in order to deter Iran from getting involved. Let's go to graphic 9 here. Further escalation of the long-running conflict increasingly risks spilling over regionally, prompting the Pentagon to order a second carrier strike group and squadrons of fighter jets to the region as a deterrence to Iran and Iranian proxies such as Hezbollah in Lebanon. So I am worried that this is going to expand and it's going to turn into, honestly, a world war. Because some of the Israeli airstrikes have actually hit Syria. As you saw in that video, some of them have hit Lebanon. You have all these accusations in regard to Iran supporting Hamas, and it could spread to a war with Iran as well, although the Biden administration is attempting to prevent that from happening by sending those carriers and other aid. So Cenk, what do you think about all of that? Do you think that this is gonna calm down in any way, or is this just gonna expand?
So I'm super worried about it expanding. And if I was the Prime Minister of Israel, again, just to be constructive, what I would tell my military is, hey, you got a Hezbollah group firing rockets at us. Make sure you take them out, obviously, right? But be super careful, because we don't want the war to spread. There's no way Hamas is going to beat us trapped in Gaza. There's a 0% chance of that. But if we drag Lebanon in and we drag Syria in, and then God forbid we drag Iran into the war, that's the only scenario under which Israel is actually under significant danger. I don't mean local danger, I don't mean danger of terrorism. We know that that exists. But I mean existential danger. So why is Netanyahu constantly going around and poking every bear? So I'm not against the strikes against Hezbollah and Lebanon, I get it. But they preemptively destroyed the tarmac in the main terminal in Syria. Maybe they have intelligence that the Syrians were going to launch strikes from there. But if the Syrians launched strikes against Israel, Israel would have every right to retaliate, and it wouldn't. So I don't know that Syria was ever going to do that. That would be significantly surprising. But now Israel has officially attacked Syria. Now Syria has a right to self-defense, and for all everybody saying Israel's got a right to self-defense, I hate the Syrian government. I hate Bashar al-Assad. We've gotten into very fiery debates with other people online about it. I think they're butchers in a lot of ways. But why now you guys are the ones saying self-defense allows for everything. So now the Bashar al-Assad and Syrians have the right to self-defense on anything? No, of course not. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But why are you constantly agitating for a bigger war? It's madness. And Netanyahu has been trying to get Iran into a war for the last decade at least. And he begged Trump, get out of that peace deal. I don't want peace. I don't want peace with Iran. Netanyahu said 1,000 times. Why are you trying to endanger Israel, let alone the whole world? What is wrong with this monster? Both Hamas and the right-wing government of Israel constantly say war, 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 kill, kill, kill. Enough, God damn it. Protect your own civilians, let alone everyone else. What are you endangering Israel for, you lunatic? How would a war with Israel, with Iran help Israel? How? On what planet does it help Israel? It helps Netanyahu. Oh, I'm a wartime prime minister. I'm the only one who could protect you by starting larger and larger wars. Look at how stupid I was, where I didn't do any intelligence and let them butcher you. What happened, Netanyahu? I thought you were a tough guy who was supposed to protect Israel. Now the Israeli citizens know, 86% in a poll said Netanyahu should have done his job and gotten intelligence. But instead, oh, look at this, more violence, more war, more bloodshed. Netanyahu thinks that helps him politically. He's a disgusting person. You don't see what Hamas did and how disgusting they were, and then say, oh yeah, I'll outdo them and I'll get into Israel into even bigger trouble. The problem isn't the innocent Israeli citizens or the innocent Palestinian citizens. The problem is the leadership, warmongers on all sides.
Thanks for watching. If you become a member, you get to watch all this ad-free, except for, of course, this ad. Still, hit the join button below.